Hey, you guys, welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. We're about to go live on KCAA in a second. But until then, I am talking to the great Scott Fit. I wanted to know more about him, and I asked him 21 questions, and I hope those questions fulfill, making him look successful and great, which he's already done. He has a wonderful family, and I cannot wait to dig into these questions. Let me put you on Instagram too before we go live on the radio. Do you think your family's out there watching, Scotty?
No, my wife's at work. My son will be home on the bus from school pretty soon.
Oh, cool. I hope I make you look okay. Kimberly Cloud Show featuring Scott. And I got the link. Go here. Oh, yeah, one thing I would like to say on national, because this is worldwide. I would like to say I completely apologize for leaving you hanging. Even though I should have been more specific, Scott. I should have been more specific and said 2 p.m. Pacific. That has to be irritable. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I had lots of work to do, so I just left it open. And then after a while, I thought, okay, I think it's the wrong time zone. But that's fine.
We're going to say this all over again, but are you calling from Canada?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Okay, we got less than 1 minute.
All right.
Ten seconds. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I wish I could have seen behind the scenes, but go ahead and watch my show if you want. But I wanted to talk about a special guest I have for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you calling from?
My name is Scott Mcdermott. It's great to be here, Kimberly, and I'm calling from Alberta, Canada, just north of Calgary in a small town called Sylvan Lake.
Great. Is it snowing still or no?
Yeah, it started again today. We thought we were kind of into spring, but no, it's snowing right now.
Understood. Okay, let's dig into your past, present, and future. Just tell me, I've asked all my guests this about your past leading up to what you do in your present, and we'll leave it at that, and then we'll go to your future later.
Sure. The quickest I can make it is out of high school, I got into a career in architecture and I worked in professional firms for about 13 years. And that led me to being fat and sick and stressed. And I was having all kinds of health problems, never any answers, just lots of different specialists and never getting anywhere. And finally, I spoke to a doctor that did a real big global look at my life and just said, holy crap, you need to de-stress, you need to eat right, you need to exercise, you need to get some sleep. And so I joined a gym, I met a trainer, I completely transformed my life. I dropped 40 pounds, I put on 18 pounds of muscles, I had the whole fit body, six-pack thing going on, and everything in my world changed. And that really switched how I saw the world. Everybody in the office started asking me to coach them. And how did you do that? You look so great. And so then I got certified as a trainer. Then I started working in a gym part-time. And 2 weeks before I was an associate partner in the firm, I resigned and I went to work in a gym. And a year and a half later, I built my own gym.
I love it. Tell me, before we move forward about that, how did your architecture work for you? And how was it fundamental? Like, for those who, some people don't even know what architecture is. Tell me, that is a very, very good job right there. Tell me about what got you into it, number one.
So I have ADHD, and one of the great things about ADHD is you can, what we call hyper focus. So we're very, very distracted, but if you can find something with a deadline that you care about, we hyper focus, and then the whole world goes away and we're really amazing at one thing. and I was really good. Architecture is the drawing of buildings. So producing drawings so that a contractor knows how to build the building to the designs of the vision of the architect in relationship to the people who have the building. So I was a technologist and a technician. And so I would do working drawings. I would design and draw how the building was put together. And when I hyper-focused and had a strict deadline, I was excellent at it. When I didn't have a strict deadline, I was a pain in the butt. I was distracted all the time. It was terrible, but it meant sitting at a desk 60, 80, 90 hours a week under constant deadlines. And so that was unhealthy.
Understood. And you sure you didn't build some of the White House? I'm just joking. How did you fix being overweight? What was your steps? How did it was step one all the way to the final finished product?
How did I fix it? Probably the biggest thing is realizing how nutrition works with the body, and that I was just eating garbage all the time. And people say they have a sweet tooth. I have 32 of them. I mean, I would live on junk food if I could. If I could just live on ice cream, happy boy. So it was realizing that food is the ultimate medicine, and I was poisoning myself. I was eating fast food all the time. I was having dessert with desserts. When my energy was low, I would do what most people did. I would just throw back a bunch of caffeine and power through the day. And I just was a train wreck. It was not working. And so when I started eating well and removed the junk and started replacing it with healthy choices, delicious healthy choices, but healthy choices, then obviously my body healed and started. It just was amazing. Like, dropping body fat is a side effect of eating well. It's ultimately simple, but socially really hard.
Understood. You overcame the stigma that people overweight cannot manage to fix their weight without medication. You did it all without medication, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, wow. And go ahead.
I was to say, it's socially hard. I mean, one of the most difficult things, I remember my best friend at the time weighed over 300 pounds and I was only 250. And we went out for lunch and I ordered a salad with grilled chicken breast and some veggies. And he looked at me, he's like, "What are you doing? Are you on a diet, you skinny little puke?" He called me a skinny little puke because from his perspective, I was thinner than him. So that was the hard part, was everybody else.
So basically it was the environment. Certain people didn't understand you wanted to do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide to tune? Well, before we go to that question, I can't wait to ask about that. You, 4 houses of maybe 3,000 square feet, maybe equal up to 15,000 square feet. So imagine that, you guys. How did you build this gym, architecture person, and how did you help people with this gym?
So yeah, when we built my 15,000 square foot gym in Sylvan Lake, it was a big risk. We basically, because I had all my contacts in the architecture world, I knew a really good builder and I knew some people to work with. And when we first built the building, it was 10,000 square feet. And then 3 years later, we'd outgrown it. So we expanded another 5,000 square feet. So we built a huge building, and it was a big learning curve, because when you go from being a good personal trainer to owning a business, that's a different game. Now, all of a sudden I had staff. Eventually I had 27 staff. We had childcare, group fitness, we had CrossFit, we had open gym, we had tanning, we had massage, we had a juice bar. Like it became a great, big, massive thing. So it was a big learning curve, because then I didn't have time to be a personal trainer, which is what I loved in the first place. Now I was a business owner, and now it's taxes and bills and payroll and hiring and firing and marketing and meetings and angry people and happy people. And it was a big shift. I had to really adjust and realize that my role was no longer to actually work with people. It was to work with trainers, to work with people. So I had to pass my knowledge on through other trainers, because I couldn't do it all. I tried for a while, and I started to self-destruct. So Yeah, it's been quite a journey because of course in 2020 we shut the gym down. I mean, for external reasons, we lost everything and whatever. But the
That's
exciting
the
part is
COVID,
now,
right? During the COVID, right?
yeah, yeah. It was mandated March 17th, 2020. It was mandated in Canada, in our province, that gyms were dead, shut down. You are not allowed to operate. And that was for a minimum of a few months, but we didn't know how long it was going to be. It turned out to be 4 months. I It was $15,000 a month to just pay for an empty building with no income. I can't do that. So we lost it all and it was sold off, all our equipment was gone. And that was tragic. But the great thing is I got to return to my roots because now I coach people one-on-one. I'm back to being a personal trainer, which is what I loved in the first place. So there's a good to it.
Well said. Before we move on from the gym, can you tell the next person that's in your footsteps that want to get in your footsteps, how did you bring those additions and what type of licensures did you have? Like such as an LLC or, maybe an incorporated license or business license or however you did it. Tell me about the additions such as the juice bar and the massage. You had it all. That could have been generating some, and it had to be generating some large money. And then it just all got lost.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting challenges, it generated a lot of money, but it generated a lot of costs. That was always the challenge, right? So, yeah, you're doing all these things, but now you have a lot of staff and now you have a lot of expenses. So that's interesting. And that was the biggest journey. So if you are out there and you're a trainer and you want to run your own gym, run your own business, I mean, I think the first thing you need to do is read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It talks about the entrepreneur myth where we're a good technician. I'm a really good trainer. And I have this moment where I run a gym. I want to run a gym. But when you run a gym, now you're not a trainer, you're a manager. And you need to have a big vision, and that's the entrepreneur. And if you're trying to do all three, you'll self-destruct. So then you'll need to learn how to have a team and you need to grow. And through all of that, what you need is a business coach. You need a business coach. You need to help somebody who's been there before you to coach you through it, because it's a lot to learn. It's a huge learning curve to run a business. And there's a lot of risk. It was easy. Several times we almost lost our house because it was expensive to run that building. It was hard. There was times where we had to steal from our investments, like our retirement fund, to make payroll. And, it's hard to run a business. And
I still give you the credit, man. You and your wife. Now we're going to move on to the book you wrote after the Gym Phase 1 project, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the book you wrote and why and what is it about?
So I wrote a book called If Your Body Were a Car, You Wouldn't Treat It This Way. And I'll show it there. It's because it's a reference I make all the time. Like if I said, Kimberly, I'm going to give you $250,000 McLaren supercar for a month for free. I'm just going to give it to you, $250,000 car, right? The only caveat is that any damages you have to pay me back for, right? Fair enough. But there's some rules in me lending you the car. You have to drive it till it's out of gas. That's easy. But then when you fill it up, you have to fill it up with gasoline, diesel fuel, mud puddle water, Gatorade, egg whites, and dirt. And then you have to drive it at 100 miles an hour on the freeway with all the tires half flat, and you have to drain all the coolant out of the engine first. Is it still a deal?
No.
You would never do that because you'll blow up the motor. But people do that all the time with their body. They're eating garbage. They're eating junk. We're eating polyunsaturated fatty acids and food colorings and carcinogenic junk and preservatives and bad fats and unhealthy things. And we're never eating vegetables and everything's fast food. We're poisoning our body, and you would never do that with a car. And so that's where I came up with the title. If your body were a car, you wouldn't treat it this way. You would never, like, I know people that just skip breakfast and they just do their work day and they have a coffee and they carry on. Well, if you were going to go on a 12-hour trip in your car and the fuel gauge said empty, you'd fill up and you'd put good gas in your car.
Yeah.
So it would take you somewhere. Well, why do we not do that with our body? Our body is amazing. Your body loves you. Your body is doing everything it can to get through the day, and you're treating it like garbage. If you treated your car the same way you treated your body, it wouldn't run. I have people that come to me and they're like, oh, I need you to fix me. I need you to help me. Well, what's wrong? Well, my knee doesn't work. I'm like, well, how long has that been bugging you? About 5 years. Oh, have you done anything who have you seen about it? Well, I went to physio once. It didn't help. You went to physio once? Like, it takes more than once. Like, what are you eating? Like junk. So we expect our bodies to perform and last forever, but we're not taking care of them. And there's so many parallels. So that's where I came up with the idea for the book, because it makes it easy to relate.
You know, well said about that. I have a question for you, since you know about the polysaturated fats. I don't know much about it. And so my question is this: why do we tend to gravitate towards more bad fatty foods than good fatty foods, like tuna oil, or, you know what I mean?
I do. Well, it's a big challenge, and it's one of the biggest challenges with nutrition and science, really, which we kind of came face to face with in the last 4 years when corruption entered the field. When we look at the research that happened on polyunsaturated fatty acids, seed oils back in the 60s and 70s, when canola oil and vegetable oil and margarine was all sort of invented, there was a hypothesis, a scientific hypothesis, that those fats, because they were not processed the same way as animal fats by the body, would be good for the heart. Now, we know that's wrong, but it was the dogma for so long that it's integrated into society. And when it was adapted, and I mean, when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, it was all the news to have margarine instead of butter. It was all the news to have canola oil and vegetable oil. It was hailed as this great savior. And so it became integrated in all of the fast food companies. And it's cheaper. It's shelf stable. It's easy. So our whole world is inundated with it. And it's wrong. It's wrong. It's bad for us. But to turn the Titanic around is slow. It's going to take a while for everybody to realize we need to be eating fish oil, avocado oil, right? Olive oil. We need to get to the good stuff and get rid of that junk. And so that's going to take a while. And it's going to take people spouting about it. There's a lot of great research and a lot of great doctors out there who are like Dr. Chris Nob, and they're talking about it. And the regular medical community is like, oh, what are you talking about? All these studies say that margarine's good for you. And like, okay, but the studies are wrong. And I can show you why they're wrong. But it takes a while for that Titanic to turn.
Now, I have another question for you. You don't have to answer it. I'm like a journalist sometimes, but here it goes. So do you think that sometimes they put addictive formulas in their products to make you keep coming back? Because I just don't understand the lines that form up at McDonald's for this flat old burger that is going to kill you one day if you continue to eat it. I don't get that.
100%. That's not a theory. That's fact. So how many ingredients do you think there are in a McDonald's French fry?
I don't know.
Well, it's a potato, right? How many ingredients? We just guess. How many ingredients in? How about 19?
No way.
19.
I just thought it was the potato cut up with salt, maybe 2 ingredients. Right? That's what I thought.
They're soaked in oils, salt, sugar, beef flavoring. Then there's, I can't even pronounce all the scientific words, but there's 19 ingredients in McDonald's fries. They are designed to hit the pleasure sensors of your brain and your taste buds hard and make you want them.
So we get high off of them in a natural high way. Oh, wow.
They hit your brain chemistry.
You hear that, America? You hear that, the world? We're talking to a guy that knows his stuff. Okay, cool. So now we're going to move into your biking over the course of the decades, or the decade you've been doing it. Tell me about the Sylvan Lake Half Ironman Triathlon. Tell me about that. What is it? Tell me about what you do and why you do it.
So triathlon was invented in Hawaii by some military guys that were bragging at a bar. They said the around Oahu's open water swim is the hardest swim in the world. And the guy's like, screw you. The great big bike race is around that's the hardest. And then it's like, stuff you guys, a marathon's harder than all that. And they're like, fine, let's put it all together in one day and see what happens. So they put together a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a marathon on one day. And like, I think it was 16 or 17 people showed up and they had no idea what they're doing. And they tried it, and they called it the Ironman. And it has been going now for over 40 years. And yeah, it's called a triathlon, a swim, bike, run. And our local town had what's called a half Ironman. It's now called a 70.3. It was a non-branded, because there's different companies that own rights to names and things. But this race had happened in our town for the second year. And I thought, I wonder if I could finish one of those. Like, I can swim. I mean, I can, kind of not drown. Right. I'd never swam laps in a pool, but I could not drown. And I was a spin instructor, so I could ride the crap out of a stationary bike for an hour in a studio, and I could run. Like, I used to be a pretty avid runner back when I was in high school, but then I broke my back in a gymnastics accident, but it was healed. And so I was stronger now. So I thought, I think I could pick up running again. I wonder if I could finish one of these. So I hired a coach and I started training. And I started training in September of 2004. And in the summer of 2005, I did the Sylvan Lake Half Ironman Triathlon, and I was 8th in my age group. And I was, I think, 21st overall. I did really, really well. And I was like, holy crap, I have found my sport. Yeah. And so I got a roll down spot to go to Ironman Canada, the full Ironman, 5 weeks later. So in 5 weeks, I doubled all of my distances. Okay. I learned to swim twice as far, learned to cycle twice as far. And during the Ironman, I ran my first ever marathon, and I just was hooked. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was so much fun, and I loved it.
And well done and well said, by the way. What does it mean to represent Canada at the World Championship then?
That was amazing and hard. So after doing Ironman for a few years, I qualified to be on Team Canada, and I went to the World Championships in Holland and Australia, and I've been at international events in Miami and Idaho and a bunch of different places all around Canada. And it was great. But I mean, when you're wearing the flag on your back, there's a lot of pressure. It's really, it's all of a sudden harder, but it's exciting. And there's a lot of pride to it, obviously. But I put a lot of pressure on myself to do really well, and I had a couple of tough races, but it was a great experience.
How did you mentally prepare to represent Canada like that? Was it like the Olympics or something like the Olympics, or was it the Olympics type thing?
It's a lot smaller than the Olympics. The Olympics is a certain distance of triathlon called a standard or an Olympic distance, which is shorter. Ironman is longer, and the World Long Course Championships they're kind of basically double the Olympic distance race. Mentally, I listen to Eminem a lot. I listen to, just some music, just good, hard, moving, angry music, and just kept picturing the finish line. And I think that's a lot of things in life. We need to have a big goal where through the hardship, you're picturing the finish line. You're not thinking about this next step. You're thinking about the summit of Everest. You're not thinking about how hard it is right now. You're thinking about how great it's going to be later.
Well said. And I heard you were in Holland, and your wife is from Holland. Tell me about their culture. What do you know about your wife's culture? This is a SAT question.
Well, my wife's mom and her family are from Holland, and so we went there on our wedding honeymoon, and then we went back for the race. We've been back a few times, and they're a beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. The Dutch are so fantastic, and of course they love Canadians because we were the troops that rescued that area in World War II. So culturally they love Canadians, which is kind of cool. But Dutch people are so nice. They're so gracious, and they're so kind, and they're so wonderful, and everybody speaks English, which is really helpful. And their food is incredible. Of course, they're amazing people. Holland's awesome.
Well said. What is the famous food that they like to eat, the Dutch or Holland?
I would say probably one of the most famous one is poffertjes. And poffertjes are like a little mini donut pancake. They have this special cast iron pan with like little half circles, and the guy's got this little fork, and he goes beep, 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 and he flips them all. and then they serve them to you in a bowl with icing sugar and whatever toppings, and they're flipping delicious. So yeah.
I believe it. How is the bike in the running of 400 kms? And I did my research. I think that's like, I think almost 240, well, it's 248, almost 250 miles. How did you mentally prepare for that, sir?
Yeah, so that was a fundraiser for cancer research. We traveled 250 miles, 400 kilometers in one day, crossing over 2 mountain ranges. So one of the mountain ranges called the Coquihalla Summit, vehicles struggle getting up and over this thing. So it was hard. And preparing for that, I mean, first of all, it was for cancer research. So it was a bigger purpose, which is helpful. And it was a great group where there was no administration fees taken from the donation. So all of the money went to directed research, which I love, because a lot of times charities actually have administrative fees that are up in the 80-90%. And that makes me grumpy. Yeah. So I don't need the CEO to drive a Ferrari. Like, stop it. This is a charity. So anyway, I love that. How do you prepare for it? Just like anything, like Ironman, or of course, when I get into Ultraman, it's a mental game. You have to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable, because the trainer rides. I remember one of the fundraisers I did at the gym for the Ride to Survive, which is what that 400K ride is called. It was sponsor Coach Scotty for his 8-hour bike day. So for 8 hours, an average work day, I rode my bike in the trainer studio, and you watch movies, or I don't know, you get a numb butt, but you just put up with it. You just learn to put up with uncomfortable.
How many hours did it take you to run, or, the bike, 250 miles?
So we start at 2:00 in the morning, and we were finished at 11:00 at night. So we start at 2 in the morning with headlamps, and we basically ride all day. We have 2 large 30-minute breaks, and I think it was 6 breaks of 15 minutes. And we had a support crew of vehicles, like a wagon train. So there'd be like a police car, a porta potty truck, a food truck, some music guys, an ambulance, and there'd be like 10 vehicles, and they would zip ahead of us, pull over at a big location, set up a great big aid station. We would rip in 100 cyclists all in a big line and go to the bathroom, eat, and go again. And it was just a well-oiled machine. And we just repeat. And it's hard. It's hard. It's tough. It's a long day.
Yeah. But guess what? You saw that not many people get to see. You get to see sunlight, the sunrise, within the mountains, right? Y'all were in the mountains.
Yeah.
And tell me how that, vision was for you to be like riding at 2, and by probably 5, 6 in the morning, you start seeing the sunlight poking out. How was that for you?
It's really amazing in a lot of ways. I mean, you really develop friends, right? Because there's 100 cyclists, so we're 50 long and 2 wide. And, you chat and take care of each other. And sometimes we're going up a really steep climb. The stronger riders would put their back on the riders that were struggling. We'd push each other up. And so you become pretty good friends going through that amount of hurt and that amount of challenge. And it was really great when the sun came up, because then it wasn't so flipping cold anymore. And after, like, even though it's in June, it's still cold in the middle of the night, right? And dark. And then, as it starts to warm up and the sun's up, then it starts to feel good. You start peeling off layers, and it's a whole process. It's pretty cool, because we all go through it together, right? And when we get towards the end, especially, what's really amazing is when the sun goes down again, and then, oh man, we still have 4 hours to go, and we're still grinding along, and people start to fade, and you start to encourage each other. It's, come on, don't quit. We've got this. Let's go. Come on. I'm on your wheel. Let's go. And it becomes a really powerful a moment. And that when you get to the finish area and there's 1,000 people going nuts and all your family's there cheering like crazy, it feels pretty good. And all of a sudden you got lots of energy again, even though your butt's sore.
Yeah. One last question about that particular part. What genre of music kept you going? Like meditation music? Like, even if you chose Eminem, what other genres kept you motivated to go when you were just bike riding and everyone was quiet within the frequency you were in?
One of the challenging things about those big bike rides is there's no music allowed. So you can have music when you're training in the garage, great, or you can watch a movie in the garage. But when you're out on the highway, it's kind of dangerous to listen to music. So I typically don't listen to anything. And I think that's really hard for some people, is because you're alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes when people are alone with their thoughts, they're not amongst friends.
What you're saying.
Right. And that's a good process too.
How, that is the most mentally challenging thing you had to do, being alone with your thoughts, not having one lick of signal other than the encouragement towards the finish line. You know, everybody is quiet just because they don't want to get ran over. But tell me, like, did anybody quit? Did anybody encourage you to keep going? Like, you know, did you ever want to quit?
Personally, I didn't. People did quit. That did happen. And for various reasons, sometimes somebody will develop an injury or something where they're just harming themselves. And so then it doesn't make sense to continue. And some people, it was just harder than they thought it was going to be. And so that does exist. And of course, we're always very encouraging. Yeah, you try to stick together the best you can. But at some point, like if somebody's decided that they're done, there's not much you can say about it. You need to build that mental strength. And, I think one of the big things to share is that I had a pretty fascinating childhood and stuff, which I don't want to get into all that garbage, but all of those challenges make you stronger. All of the hard things you've done in your life make you stronger. And this is where you rely on that. This is where you dig in. This is where you take all the things that have been rotten and awful and difficult. I don't know if you listen to David Goggins. He's phenomenal, but David Goggins is he's an amazing human being. You should check him out. He's pretty hard as nails, but he's an American fella and grew up in just the worst environment, and he wanted to get into the military, but he was really fat and heavy, and he got fit and healthy, and he's got a mindset that is just, he never quits. You should interview him. He's amazing. I don't know if you could get into him. He's multimillionaire now. He's a big deal. But all of those challenging things that get you to where you are. And, I listen to, you asked about what music I listen to. I love punk music. I love Blink 182 and Offspring and just angry punk music. And there's some rap I like, and I like angry music sometimes. But what I really like to listen to when I'm running more than cycling is podcasts or audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks like 50 Cent. Curtis Jackson has a phenomenal audiobook. Matthew McConaughey's is really good. Will Smith's is really good. I mean, I could go on and on. These people that you think, oh, he just had the greatest life in the world, everything's great. Yeah, you should hear about their childhood. It was terrible. And the fact that they overcome all of that to become super amazing. Dwayne Johnson, the same, The Rock, like he lived in his car with his mom for months. I mean, these guys have overcome so many crazy, incredible things to become fantastic. And I think, and I have a lot of garbage like that to draw on too, right? That whole beat up, abused, raped, all that crap makes me stronger, makes me who I am, makes me able to suffer on a bicycle or on a run course, because this is actually easier than childhood. So I'm good.
You know what you did? You sat up there, well said, by the way, but you absorb nature. That's what's mentally challenging. You probably seen things that you usually don't see. Just walk into a store, you notice the rock on the ground, you notice, the darkness surrounding you, or the raccoon. Did you ever see animals of abundance while practicing actually riding without no sound?
Yeah, tons. You see so many things that people miss when they're turned off, right? People ride with headphones and stuff all the time. And I see them at races, and I want to say, I feel sorry for them, because you're missing it. Nature's incredible. God's design is incredible. There's so much out here that's amazing, and you're turning it off. Like, I love good music, don't get me wrong, but yeah, the number of times when I'm out in nature, and if you're not looking, you'll miss it. And sometimes it's a little frightening. I remember a couple of years ago, I was riding in the mountains, and I just bliss and quiet and chirping birds and streams and all that kind of stuff on a road in the mountains in Canada where it was pretty quiet. And I heard a rustle, and I looked, and a bear cub, a black bear cub, came ambling up out of the ditch to the road. And I was like, whoa. Of course, I swerved wide, and then there was another one. And then here comes mama. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So then I just went really slow, got super quiet. I'm not trying to hurt your babies. Please don't kill me. And then when I got a good couple 300 feet away, I stopped, turned around, took out my cell phone, quick picture, and then buggered off. But right. But if I'd had headphones on, I wouldn't have even noticed. I would just, so yeah.
Well said. And how did you mentally, because from 250 to almost 8 to 900 miles, like the bike ride is totally different. How did you prepare for that?
There's not really much of a difference. Once you get comfortable with suffering, now it's just more suffering. Like it's
Okay.
But it's true. Like, I mean, I've done the World Championships for Ultraman a few times, and of course, which is where my crash happened. But what you learn as an athlete, what I've learned as an athlete, is the pain gets to a part where it's so bad, it can't get worse. So then you can just not worry about it anymore.
That's a good thing for people to learn. It's the truth too, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
How do you live in the warrior code?
So the warrior code is actually, it's a line from a song by the band Survivor from the Rocky IV soundtrack. And it says, in the warrior's code, there's no surrender. Though the body says stop, the spirit cries never. And that has always gripped me. And so when I was building my endurance company to train endurance athletes, like I train people for 5K, 10K marathons, endurance cycling, endurance running. We call it warrior code training because it's living that warrior code where you learn to turn off. Your body's in pain. Great. I'm not damaging it. It's just sore. Okay. I can ignore that because my spirit says I'm not quitting. And it's about that.
Do you sometimes with working out use the fight or flight where you don't even feel the pain? Is in another sense, you know what I mean? How you can get shot and you never know that you're shot because you're using that fight or fight response. And it's another code to it, a word to it now too. But I think that that's what people of athletes probably do. They see, like you just said, they feel the pain, but they can now put it away and then worry about it later. That's a mental thing that some people cannot conquer in their lifetime. Their foot gets touched by a wall and it's like hit by a wall. They're like, oh my God, I feel it. So how did you, I have to know, how did you learn that code? Like how did you become that strong mentally where you learned that?
It's a lot like everything in life. It's a practice. It's not running away from pain. It's not running away from uncomfortable. It's embracing it. Chris McCormack is a famous Ironman triathlete, and he says, embrace the suck. And it's, you know what? It's going to hurt. You know that going in. Like my favorite race to do is Ultraman, which is a 6-mile swim, 320-mile bike, and then a 52-mile double marathon. It's a 3-day race. And so when you're swimming 6 miles in the open ocean, it takes me about 3.5 to 5 hours, depending on water and currents and whatever. I mean, in 2013 at the World Championships, there was 6-foot swells and there was cross chop from the wind off the mountains in Kona and cross chop from, so we were swimming in a toilet bowl with 6 to 8 foot swells and the current was against us. And I started to throw up because I got motion sick because of the salt water. So I threw up for 3 hours while I swam for 5. And you just have to surrender into it and just realize, which is a lot like life. This is not going to get easier. This is not going to get simple. Nobody's going to rescue me. This is just going to be hard. And I just need to keep going. And that's life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Sometimes life sucks. Sometimes life is really friggin' hard and you just need to keep going. And, then I crawled out of the ocean after 5 hours and 10 minutes of swimming. And my crew was just like, where the hell have you been? Of course, they didn't know I'd been throwing up for 3 hours. And now they have to get me hydrated and fed so I can cycle 90 miles, so that the next day I can cycle 270 miles. So the next day I can run 52 miles. And it was really hard. And like you said, I get to the point where you just park it. It's like, yeah, it hurts. I get it. Shut up. Carry on.
Wow. You have a communication with your spirit. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to move on to coaching now. How did you get into coaching, and how do you find it helpful for the people that you coach?
I love coaching, and somehow I always have. It's just been like a natural go-to. I can't handle when somebody's suffering or somebody's life is hard, and I just want to help. It's always been a natural instinct. I was in Boy Scouts when I was a kid, and I want to help. I just love helping. And now because I'm 55 this summer, and I have so much life experience that I can draw from. I mean, I almost died at the World Championships, and I came back from that with a brutal head injury and all kinds of broken bones. And I've learned every step of the way, and I've had some amazing coaches. And I think too, because I've been really fat and I've been really fit. And then after I crashed, I got fat again because of all the surgeries, and I was emotional, and I was eating like a moron for a while. I got fat again, and then I got fit again, and I clawed my way back to the World Championships in spite of all odds. And every time I did that, I learned from it. And I love sharing that perspective with people and helping them see where they're at and get out of their own way. And it's just my favorite thing to do. I get goosebumps when I get to coach people. I think it's the greatest thing. One of my favorite sayings is, there's nothing new in here. Everything new is out there, and out there is your coach, and out there is other people. And if we just sit and hide inside our brain, it's not always kind, right? It's, you're a loser and nobody likes you, and you're just going to fail, and you have no money, and you're broke, and everything sucks. Like, that's what's in there.
Yeah.
And it's not helping.
Yeah.
It's also not accurate.
I agree.
And a coach can see you.
Well said. One last thing about this subject. You never mentioned that you almost died.
Right.
Did you see the light or anything, or it was just a blackout type thing?
In 2015 in the Ultraman World Championships, on day 2 on the bike course. So this is kind of fun in the sense that in January of 2015, I reached out to a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, an amateur filmmaker. And I said, hey, I want to do a little short documentary on the Ultraman World Championships, because it's not on TV. It's a quiet little race. Only 40 people in the world are invited to participate every year. It's been going for 35 years and nobody's heard of it. Let's do a little film. And so we were filming it. My goal, I'd hired a new coach. Craig Percival was a phenomenal coach. And we were pushing for me to be top 5 in the world. And I was having a great day 1. I had a great day 2. I was 10th overall, and I was hunting number 9. And I only had about, I think I was down to about 45, 50 miles left. And it was raining a little bit, and I was going down a mountainside. And apparently there was algae on the bridge deck. And I woke up 3 days later in Oahu at the brain trauma unit at Queen's Medical Center. And the race was on Kona. So they had flown me to a different island. And I had metal staples holding my skull together because I'd broken my skull open when my helmet spun. I had broken my arm in half. I'd shattered my shoulder. I busted 5 ribs. I busted up my knee. I tore a big chunk out the side of my face. I had the worst brain injury you can get. So it was the thing. I almost died. And a couple of guys in the race stopped their race and saved my life and got me breathing. And it was the thing. And, they kind of thought I'd never race again, but I'm pretty stubborn. So I got a couple of metal parts put in, and then 7 months later, when everything was healed, I got the metal parts taken back out. And then I did tons and tons of physiotherapy so that my shoulder would work again, and had knee surgery. And I'm really stubborn. I never quit. And
What's weird? What's really weird? I used to go to Queen's Medical Center, and I stayed in Wahiwa. I
Oh,
know.
wow.
Yeah. So that's the connection, but moving on, I'm glad that you shared that story just to let you guys know if you out there and you want to quit, look at his story. He has a powerful story. And did you ever write a book like a biography about your life?
I'm 127,000 words into it. It's nearly complete. And yes. And yeah, I've been writing for a while. I got to finish it though. And the short documentary that we were making, we kept filming. And now it's an 82-minute feature length documentary. And we won several awards and it's free on YouTube. So you can watch it and be inspired. Drew, the filmmaker, did a phenomenal job. He did a really good job. It's very inspiring. And if you go to scottyfit.com, you can find it and click. It's free on YouTube.
Well said. Your plans, what are your plans that you're going to have with your family to produce even more? What I mean is, how would your children take after their powerful, both mentally and physically father? I said that in the beginning, and now I know I'm dead on. You have written over possibly 4,000 to 5,000, if not more, miles added up, and I know you have younger whippersnapper adults waiting to fulfill their talents that they see you accomplish every day. And how would you reach them, Scott?
I have a son, and he just turned 12 actually last week, and he has autism and he's an amazing artist, like next level, holy crap, amazing artist. He can sit down and in 20 minutes in pen and ink without hesitation draw you the most incredible thing. So I'm hoping he sees, and he's he hasn't followed me into the endurance world, although he'll walk on the treadmill for 3 hours while I ride my bike and we watch cartoons, and he'll just walk. He'll do 6, 7, 8, 9 miles walking beside me while I train in the garage. But so we never know where that comes from or goes. But we go to comic conventions and meet incredible artists. We were just at one last weekend, and he learns by watching some of the other artists, and he's growing exponentially in his ability. So like any parent, I'm doing the best I can, and I have no idea, and there's no manual, but I'm trying to just help him out. And he certainly sees that kind of never quit in me, I think.
Okay. And I have another couple of questions. I wanted to know, basically, do you do virtual or hybrid speaking events? Is it both virtual and hybrid?
I do hybrid. I do both. So in COVID times, when I lost the gym after 18 years, one of my big projects was to build this podcast studio so I could do professional speaking. And so I do keynote talks and motivational talks. So that's definitely something I love to do. And I coach a lot of people online and in person. So they get a 30-minute power coaching session once a month and stuff like that. So I do lots of coaching like this, and I have a 21-day nutrition program with 117-page manual filled with phenomenal, delicious recipes so that you never feel like you're suffering. There's no suffering. You don't need to suffer. It's good food. It's delicious food. Life is amazing. So yeah, I do hybrid for sure.
What makes you stand out from the rest? Your thing that you do in the help coaching, and I know what makes you stand out, but I just want the people to know what makes you stand out for those who just now are joining the show.
I mean, I would say it's my passion for nutrition and life and having a great experience. But I don't believe in pendulum diets. I don't believe in no carbs, no fat, none of this. I believe in like in the middle. I believe in all the things. I believe in real food. I believe that your diet should be amazing and delicious and have freedom. And I would think it's my passion is what people like.
Well said. What future are you going to have with your wife and your son with all these wonderful things you've been doing and your career opportunities that had came towards you? Because this is not a typical career opportunity. Even architecture isn't a typical career. But tell me about it.
Well, it's pretty exciting, but also pretty scary. I mean, I've spent the last 3 years rebuilding my career from scratch. When we let the gym go, I had to basically start over. And so the exciting thing is I've put lots of my programs now in an app. So it's super available, which is great. But now I need to learn how to promote the app and get people to know about it. So there's lots of things I have to grow into and get better at. But when I race, I always pick an Ironman that allows us to travel. And so this year, my big race is Ironman Switzerland. So as a family, we're going to Switzerland. We're going to visit my wife's family in Holland. We're going to travel Europe a little bit for a month. And so I always like to import my love of triathlon, which a family vacation. So I call it a racecation. And so, dad goes away for a day and does his thing, and then we just go on vacation. So I really want to keep growing and helping more people. I want to do a lot more speaking and finish the book, because I think I've got a story that's worth telling. But if I don't tell anyone, it's not helping anyone.
Do you know, or did your wife ever tell you about, because I think I heard about Holland, the president actually doesn't even need security there. That's how good it is there. Is that true?
It's pretty nice. Yeah. I don't know that part, but they're a really gentle, good people from what I know of Dutch. Yeah.
And as a whole, you want to travel to Switzerland and everything. What piece of advice, this is the question, what piece of advice would you have to give to an entrepreneur out there that want to be in your shoes and learn mentally about how strength and determination, courage, integrity, and all those great things applies to what you have accomplished for and helped millions of people that listen to your story? You have the floor for 2 minutes.
My biggest thing I can say is get a coach. Whether it's a podcast that you latch onto and love their content, or whether it's an actual one-on-one coach, or whether it's books, you need a coach. Trust me, you don't know what you're doing. And you have a great idea, but you don't know what you're doing. So get a coach. Find somebody that's been where you want to go. I've always had a business coach. I've always had a triathlon coach. I've always had a life coach. And it's the most important thing. And fill your mind with good stuff. I'm always listening to amazing, wonderful podcasts of people that are, I guess, like me, just encouraging.
What do you think is important more with, like, do you think the working out part, or in under 2 minutes, because we have less than 5 minutes, do you think the working out part or the nutrition part, which one is more important to building blocks towards losing weight and gaining muscle? 4 minutes. We have 4 minutes.
So the answer to your question is yes. They are both important.
50-50. Okay.
Right? Well, they're 100% each.
Understood.
Eating well is 100% important. Eating perfectly, no, but eating well most of the time is 100% important. And then moving your body is 100% important. You need both. You have to do both. You need to eat well, and then you need to move your body. And I don't care how you move your body. It doesn't matter if you just take a walk and that's all you can manage. It doesn't mean if you park further away from work and you take the stairs. Whatever you can do, you need to do. If you can do more, great, do more. We need to move our body. It's designed to move. It will respond by getting stronger through movement, no matter where you start from. Your heart has a pump, pumps your blood. Your immune system does not have a pump. You are the pump. Movement makes your immune system function. It clears stuff out of your lymph nodes. If you don't move, your lymph system, your immune system can't work as well. And your body can't overcome eating garbage. You can't out-train it. You can't out-sleep it. You need to eat good food.
One last thing before I ask the people how to reach you. I just need it under 1 minute. Do you think music is like a cheat code to working out, where it makes you forget the stressful events that you're doing?
Yeah, because you love it, right? Okay. Music brings you back to a place in time where you love. The first time you fell in love, those great memories of high school, your college, it doesn't matter. Music takes you to a place of happy and good and wonderful, or it fuels you to a place of energy, and then it helps you get through what you're doing. I typically don't listen to music when I train. I listen to audiobooks, but if it's really, really hard training, you darn right it's music, and it's hard music.
I hate to say this, Scott, but how can the people reach you?
If they go to scottyfit.com, there's the best way to reach me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, all those things, of course. But if you go to scottyfit.com, that's the best way to reach me, and I'll help. That's what I do. I've worked with people from all over the world, and I love it.
Thank you, Scott. Stay on the line. Thank you guys for watching my show. It has been a great show. He's very well educated and very smart, talented, way surpassed talents in his life. So if you want to know about Scott, go ahead and reach him at the address he provided, and I will see you guys another time. Thank you.